I'm very excited for Selena Gomez's documentary to come out tomorrow, and we're gonna look at her chart for the eclipse. I've actually been looking at this bitch's chart like all year because I was like, she's being too quiet. She needs to have her redemption arc. She needs to come back. And I was right, per usual. The knowledge of knowing that the nodes were going to be in Scorpio and Taurus, her 4th house versus her 10th house, private life, home, family, public life, career, accomplishments, that she's working super hard on something right now. We'll see this materialize once the personal planets move into Taurus. Lots of action in her career sector because she's being guided to focus on that 10th house. A lot of innovative projects. Also, Uranus, the planet of instability, unexpected changes, unusual circumstances. That's been in her 10th house of her career since 2018, like when Justin and Hailey got engaged. I feel like it threw her career in for a whirlwind. Within that chaos, she was like, let's just try a whole bunch of different shit, a whole bunch of innovative stuff, maximize my income without me having to be in the public eye and dealing with all the ridicule. She's finally finished her Saturn return in the 7th house of relationships. Also, imagine if everybody got to have a movie displaying all of the hardest parts of their life, people to celebrate and call you so strong after your Saturn return. Like, I want that. I want to be the victim and get the praise. Lots of action was happening between her 6th house of work and her 7th house of like business deals, contracts. And I just said she's going through a lot spiritually, behind closed doors, possibly healing trauma, processing things. Her 8th house is ruled by Pisces, which is a water sign, super emotional, but both the modern and traditional ruler, Jupiter and Neptune, were in her 8th house. And I was like, this bitch is going to monetize her pain. She's about to do a creative artistic project with the things that she's healing from. I was right again. I posted that like March 6th. This was like a month later. Monetizing shame and depression. Could be dropping projects that were out of her usual brand identity. And she launched a mental health app in which other people, I'm assuming, invested in. The 8th house is shared investments. People investing into her. Said she was going to have some big stuff happening around her birthday in July. That's going to set her on fire for her career until summer of next year. Summer rolls around. It's her birthday.
Can I talk my shit again?
I don't care if they were dating, I'm just gonna say I'm right. And now we're in present day. On October 25th, we had the new moon solar eclipse in her 4th house at 2 degrees. Big new beginning, big new chapter to who she is at the core. Was directly sextile her north node, square her ascendant and her sun, and directly opposite her midheaven, her reputation, how she's perceived by the public eye. Big new faded beginning in terms of how we perceive her, and that's when these pictures came out. Okay, I have to do a part 2 for this because the astrology is like uncanny. Selena Gomez, Eclipse Astrology Part 2. First of all, I'm like, does she have an astrologer? Because dropping this impactful of a movie, the intensity around the emotions of it, around an eclipse to begin with, is like gonna shake the world. Despite the fact that like she's not a Scorpio rising or a Taurus rising or anything like that, she's a Leo rising, and similarly to being a Cancer rising, she's ruled by one of the luminaries. So anything that the moon and the sun does, it's gonna be big for her regardless. So having the eclipses for this year in still 2 of her angular houses, arguably the most like intense ones in terms of, again, private life versus public life, it's pretty big for her, point blank period. Very pivotal time for her. She's really closing a chapter, I would say, on like a painful private time of her life in order to move forward. And the last time that these nodes were actually flipped, when the north node was in Scorpio and the south node was in Taurus, it was 6 years ago in 2014 when she cried during the performance of The Heart Wants What It Wants. So back then, her astrology was telling her, girl, stop worrying about your career, stop worrying about your reputation, go home. Spend time with your family and heal. So now that we're on the flip side of this, she's done all the healing in the last 6 years. She's had to go deep into the bottom hemisphere of her chart, uproot all of the unlearning around that stuff. And now it's time for her to lean into the height of her chart and be reborn into her career and her accomplishments and confidence, etc. So then we get this huge documentary. And this is just insane to me, but the eclipse itself is going to be at 16 degrees, which is a Cancer degree. She's a Cancer. Cancer is home, family, strength, femininity, women, emotional security, healing, psychic, intuition, who you are at the core, like how you are at home with yourself. And it's going to be directly to the degree square her Saturn in her 7th house. Saturn 7th housers understand what it feels like to be dragged to hell and back in your romantic relationships. There's a lot of karmic lessons there, and it can look like you struggling more than the average person in this area of your life and taking a little bit longer to learn your lessons here. Typically, once you have your Saturn return, which she just finished, is when you kind of get to reap the rewards of all the pain you've been through and start to see more success in this area. So to have it square Saturn, I'm like, this movie's about Justin Bieber. Not actually, I am curious to see how much of him is mentioned in it, but clearly the point of conflict is touching on interpersonal relationship struggles, and of course that can be like with her family and stuff as well. It's also going to be square her Mercury in the first house. I feel like she's getting the chance to retell the story the way that she wants to from her own mouth, bringing the facts, the details, the receipts. And to the degree as well, it's going to be trine her Uranus and Neptune. I feel like they're definitely going to be talking about her health as well as addiction, possibly. Things like escapism, hiding secrets, alcoholism, things like that. Lupus, the big surgery. Also think this is interesting. The asteroid Alma is like your soul. She's having her Alma return. Mars retrograde in the 11th house. I feel like people are gonna revoke. Venus, Sun, Mercury conjunction is inching up towards her Pluto. Transformative changes in her inner world. Sextile Jupiter in her second house of income and self-worth. Mars retrograde in Gemini. Money and interviews.